Hey, how's it going, everybody? Good morning or good afternoon from wherever you're at. If you're here new to my channel, my name is Victor Sanchez, and usually what I'm talking about here in Mexico is about building a home in Mexico. So you can see some of my channels or some of my videos in the past, and you can see that I've been building here in Mexico. And but today, what I have for you guys, or at least I want to give you guys my point of view of why you should invest in Mexico. So some of the reasons why I'm going to suggest today is my personal reasons of why I believe you should invest in Mexico. Just take into consideration all the factors that you need to have as you look for your next investment, as you look into Mexico as a place where you might invest. So let me give you some of the top reasons that I believe it's a good investment. So one of the main reasons that I think it's a good time to invest in Mexico is, and I can't believe I'm saying this because for a long time it's been an issue here in Mexico, is the change of government. If you've been as a Mexican, what you first used to question, the first thing that you would question in the past was, if Mexico has so many resources, why is it so poor? Okay. And so the change of direction, at least of the country, and I don't want to talk about politics, I just want to talk about governing factors, because I don't really know what the politics are behind it. What are the total things that this government has to offer? All I can tell you guys is what I see as good, as part as what the country's doing or the government's doing for the country. So if you're watching this channel in English and Spanish, it's going to be a little bit different because for my English community, there's some factors that the Hispanic community doesn't have. So you might watch this video in Spanish and you might know enough Spanish to understand it. So there's quite a little bit of differences in it. But mainly I'll be talking about the subject and just some things to my fellow Hispanics in a different way. So anyhow, so what has the government done, or what is the government doing that is doing better now than before? And again, not talking about politics. So if you're familiar with GDP, GDP is the gross product that the country produces. So the gross product brings in revenue, and well, it increases what it can do for its country. So what do I believe this government is doing better than before? Whether it's the best or not, is that at least this government has turned its GDP, or the money that is bringing in, back to the country a lot more than previous governments. Okay, so the GDP is, I believe, in Mexico either ranked 15 or 16. I believe last year it was 15, right underneath Spain, and I think this year is 16. Not that it's decreasing a whole lot. Some countries do better, and then it kind of varies. And I think it's underneath Canada or something like that. Don't quote me too much on that. I just know that it's like 15 and 16, but it's been stable. And we're talking about 15, 16 in the world, which obviously what we know, most people would know, is that the United States is number 1, China is number 2, and then I think France is number 3, and so on. Those are like the main countries, the richest countries with the highest GDP. Okay, so what I really want to get into is, okay, the change of government, which, like I said, as Mexicans, we've seen it before, is that why is Mexico's resources not being used to increase the richness of the living in Mexico? So what this government is doing is a couple of things that I really like, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Okay, and why I believe this would be the main reason why I think you should invest. Okay, and then you can make that determination on yourself. So number one thing, or one of the few things that I can talk to you guys, is that when this government took over, the fuel companies, like the United States, you have Chevron, Shell, and other companies that are independent companies that make money for themselves. Okay, so all that money that you're paying for the gas in the United States is going to their pockets. Okay, well, for good or for bad, Mexico has basically, it owns its own gasoline. So you can think about is that hedge guy or whatever, that main guy is being actually Mexico. So what they did in the last years is about Deer Park, and they increased and they renewed a lot of their refineries and stuff like that. So from going from 80% dependency in the United States in fuel, by this year they're 40%, and their aim is for next year is being at zero dependency of the United States. And then what they're doing is turning that fuel, or the raw fuel, petroleum, diesel, and just regular, I forgot the name of it, I don't really know, but the raw oil, gas, whatever, is being sold to the United States for the United States to refine. Now they're paying about 80, roughly about 80 above maybe a barrel. So if they're selling, if you guys remember, Ukraine, United States, or Russia, and Arabs, they dropped 1,200,000 barrels of production per day. That's huge, okay? If you guys don't know this, the one who's been providing this is actually Mexico. Mexico has been the partner of the United States. I know that that even though I love a lot of the policies that Trump has, he throws dirt at Mexico a lot. And again, this is kind of trying to be neutral about everything. The United States is actually helping the United States and, well, helping itself at the same time. But that's a partnership. That's what you want to see in two countries like Canada, United States, Canada, and Mexico. So anyhow, so if the barrel is 80 something dollars a barrel, and we're selling 1,200,000, you can see how much money it's coming in just in oil alone. And then becoming independent in itself and not having to buy refined fuel from the United States, you can see how it's going to start turning little by little over the years and years. So even like the investor Carlos Slim, which is the richest man in Mexico and arguably one of the richest men in the world, is saying how it's going to impact the United States and Mexico in a positive way. So they're going to become independent, fuel independent, 2023 for sure, 2024. Okay, the government ends in 2024, but this government right now has a really strong hold, which is it's Morena. It's like having Republican Democrats in the United States, and so they have a strong hold. So there's a good chance that another person from Morena with the same type of process type of thoughts is going to come in. And if you get several of these years in Mexico, we're just going to see positive trends here in Mexico, which is great. So let's talk about other ways how the GDP is going to grow. So by not importing the fuel and selling, now you're actually bringing income into it. Okay, so that's one way. So they have the Istmo at Tehuantepec. That is huge as far as how you're going to bring in your GDP in and increase it. New money. So the Istmo, and I'll put a map. I don't know if you're left here, right? But I'm going to put a map, or maybe just plaster in the front. It's going to be in the smallest place of Mexico. And what they're going to try to do, instead of having the Panama Canal, they're going to transport things from China, Singapore, all those places into one area of Mexico and out the Gulf to be able to ship to the eastern country or the eastern states of the United States, which is the biggest market. There's more people. I don't know if you know. There's a lot more people in the east there is in the west. If you divide the state or the country in half of the United States, there's a lot more people in the east than there is in the west. So obviously you want to get more stuff into the east and you want in the west. Anyhow, that Istmo is 150 miles. So it's, if you live in California, it's like being from San Diego, I think, all the way to Calabasas. That's 150 miles. That is programmed to be with less taxes, to be paid, and it's going to be a corridor of industrial businesses, obviously homes and stuff like that. There's already investments. Look into it. Istmo that they want to pick, so you can see how that's going to develop over the years. Many governments have been wanting to do this. This government is the first one to actually do it, and it's scheduled to open next year, starting next year, and it's already starting to show a lot of positive things. Okay, so you have the fuel, you have the Istmo Tehuantepec, and then you also have the Temec. For a lot of people don't know, because the United States does not show this, The Temec is basically going to transport goods somewhere, I think, the Mazatlan area, all the way. It's basically a three-country link. Basically a train that's going to bring in goods, again, from the ports of Mexico all the way through Mexico, Sonora, all those into Texas, and then up to Chicago, and then into Canada. It's like the first train that's actually doing that. It's going to obviously help many countries, or three countries at least at one point, to doing this. So in all of these things, Mexico is going to obviously receive the employment at the ports, the taxes at the ports to transfer this. So that's another source of money. Okay, so stay with me on this. So we have the fuel that's going to decrease, which we would love in the United States, and they're actually selling to the United States, which brings income. Okay, they have El Istmo, they have the Temec, and then one of the biggest ones that Mexico has, and I'm really glad they did this, is they nationalized lithium. So as you guys know, if you live in California, California has the great idea of going electric in 2030. A lot of them are following through. I kind of like the idea, but also it's kind of stupid the way it's done. Just my opinion, okay? What Mexico has done is nationalize lithium. What it means is that no one can buy the properties and gain it like they used to do back in the days and just rob Mexico. So that's all income. What Mexico is saying is that, hey, we will not sell you directly, we cannot sell you the land, but we will make your batteries, we can build your cars, etc. So yes, they're kind of forcing the arm all those automakers to make it in their country. Now, Mexico is not the #1 producer of lithium. However, China has been really smart from the very get-go to buy lithium from a lot of different places that has really monopolized the industry. So who's your best partner still for the United States? It's Mexico. And that's why I think the United States should start appreciating Mexico more and more as it appreciates its northern partner, which is Canada. Okay, and I think Canada has a bunch of problems, to be honest with you. So you have all these things, all these factors going on. So the difference, what I say, what to invest and why invest in Mexico is because of these things. Okay, there's income coming in, and there's a government that's willing to put this money back into its cities and its country. We see it by building roads. Just this year, they passed a law of National Guards being able to secure the country, which police can't. One of the biggest things that we always worry here in Mexico is security. So they've nationalized the Guard. Well, a lot of people say, hey, well, that's like putting the military in charge of everything. Yes, in Mexico, it's different in the United States. You don't want to do that in the United States. You have a lot more trust in the police in the United States. I'm not saying 100, but a lot more in the United States than you do in Mexico. But there's a law in Mexico that you can't really prosecute a police officer and put him to the death penalty, per se. But if you work for the government, if you work for the federal, which the military is, if they betray the country, they are liable to death penalty. So you understand me, if it's harder to corrupt the military than it is to corrupt the police. I'm not saying all police in Mexico are corrupt. Simply what I'm saying is that it's easier. It's easier, and you have to understand, as a police officer, if you're going to make more money, it's very tempting to support your family, okay? I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying the facts that what it can happen. Anyhow, so in Mexico, you don't have the stock market. You have property, what you can invest, okay? And so that's what the area I'm talking about is where you can invest in Mexico. Because property and businesses and stuff like that is that where I think your investment can go a long way in Mexico. And my idea, for example, if you buy a property here in Mexico, if you wait until this all of a sudden becomes really nice, like we expect it to be, it's going to be hard to buy in Mexico. But if you buy now, before it actually shows the whole fruits of what Mexico is doing, then you're going to double, triple your investment. So buy properties, build in Mexico, and that's at least one form that I can suggest to invest in Mexico. So Mexico's taking the security part of it, which is the main concern, a lot of the main concern here in Mexico. And honestly, you can build a beautiful home here for yourself. And it's easy to travel from the United States to Mexico. All right, guys, so this is my reasons why I think you should invest in Mexico. Take a look at all these things. Istmo de Tehuantepec, what it would bring, lithium, the gas, the mech, all those things, and what they're doing for security. Now, are we going to have issues with security? Yes, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people are concerned, but it's not horribly bad. Okay, and we always can't look at the big brother because the United States has so much money to invest that it's really, really difficult. Okay, so all right, guys, thank you very much for watching my channel. Hopefully this was helpful and gives you some information of what you can look into before you invest in Mexico. And upcoming, I'm going to be showing you about properties and other things that I want to show you guys. All right, so thank you guys for being part of my channel. I really appreciate you guys. God bless you guys. All this thing, keep it in prayer. That's the main thing. Is if you're not a believer, think about it really hard. If you're a believer, pray about it really hard. Okay, so till next time, guys. God bless you.